guys, it's Morgan and welcome back to my channel. So for today's Respect the Trip video, I decided that we're going to be talking about two different theories today. I've seen these kind of around like Pinterest, Tumblr, sometimes like on those Instagram threads. They're pretty common, I feel like, social media theories that people hear about, and I'm kind of surprised that nobody has turned them into like TikTok point of views yet, because I definitely see a lot of like TikTok point of views where they talk about different theories almost. Like I've seen a lot of like, oh, like what if like this symbolized like your soulmate, or like this symbolized like your success, or like stuff like that. So I'm kind of surprised that no one has done these yet, but we'll see. Background, I guess, of like where both of these theories start is like kind of dark, because they both start with like how you died in a past life. But you'll know them when I start talking about them. The first one that we're talking about is the theory that when you die, however you die, you get a birthmark in that shape in your next life. Depending on how you died, you would get a birthmark that represented this in your past life. Like if this theory fits in and you were reincarnated, then if you had no birthmarks, then that would symbolize that you had always died of natural causes. But if you had one, it could symbolize that you were killed in some sort of ways. So I don't remember the website that I was looking on, because I know I mentioned last video that I try to like do a little bit of research before this stuff. But they did give suggestions, and I didn't come up with like these three like examples of what they can mean. These came from the website, and if I remember the name, I will definitely link it in the description below, but it is really escaping me right now. Just this English. These descriptions are not mine. So the first one was like if your birthmark is like very like ovalish and like long, could symbolize maybe you were like with a knife or a sword, or if it was like kind of like a circular but like little irregularities. Irregularities. It was circular with some irregularities, that could symbolize that you were hit with a bullet. Or if it's a odd color, odd shape, it could symbolize some kind of trauma, like a car accident or a fire. I always thought that this idea was really interesting, but one thing that I kind of want to know is I want to know like what would count as, I guess, like a non-natural way to die. Like if you got sick with like some kind of like deadly disease or a plague, would that count as like a natural way of death? Or are we only talking of age with natural ways of dying? A few other things is like, what about like infection? Like if you got like a paper cut, that's not going to kill you, but if you were in like the 14th century and you got a paper cut and then it got infected, that's going to do like a lot different story there. So like, would that be represented? And also like drowning too, because drowning isn't a natural way to die, but there also is like no area. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I don't know like what kind of like internal stuff is going on, but from what I understand with drowning, there's like no external injury usually. I think there's usually no external injury with drowning. So would there still be a birthmark to represent that? That's my question there. So I guess like the thing is like if you die an unnatural death, but you weren't bodily harmed, how would that show? Like, what if you're poisoned? Like I think that like that like what if you died of like food poisoning, or like someone poisoned you or something in your past life? Like would that be shown? Like I like the idea of the birthmarks for like physical deaths, but I think saying that they only, not physical deaths, I like the idea of the birthmarks for representing like different ways you die. I think it's very interesting, but I'm not really seeing how they could represent like anything that didn't automatically come from like noticeable physical injury. So I'm a little bit more skeptical on that one. I'm not discrediting it, because obviously like there's nothing to back it up. There's like no, it's just all speculation. But for me, I think I'm more skeptical than secure. The second one that I wanted to talk about was the idea that your fears in your life are partly related to how you died in a past life. Because I think that this is really interesting. Like, why do we fear some of the things that we do? Well, from a biological standpoint, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, I've been taking psychology this year, and a lot of stuff when they talk about fear is it's like you learn to be afraid of things because it's a survival instinct. Like, you're not trying to die. So, for lack of a better way of putting it, like, you're not trying to die. So when you learn that, like, fire is hot and it could hurt you, you're not going to touch the stove. When you learn that, like, don't walk behind a car, like, don't, like, these things are dangerous, like, these things can hurt you. Like, I think sometimes you kind of have, like, a sixth sense about it, almost. Like, you know, like, there's an innate built-in on what could hurt you. But I guess it is a good question, like, are our fears only biologically wired, or are there more to them? Like, I know some people have really uncommon fears, because I remember when I was younger, there was this book series called The School of Fear, and I think that was the name of it. I don't remember it exactly, but there was, like, this crazy woman who lived on a house on top of a hill, and the book centered around her helping these 4 teens over the course of, like, several summers overcome their fears. They had, like, seriously bad fears. Like, there was a girl who, like, she was so afraid of bugs that she would wear, like, mosquito nets to bed every night, and she would not enter a house unless, like, there was proof that there had been an exterminator there within, like, a certain time frame of her arriving, like, stuff like that. So there are questions like, if we've never experienced something and we're afraid of it, could that be related? Fears, it's like some of it is learned. Like, I have never met a lion outside of the zoo, but I know that I do not want to be, like, alone with an angry lion. Or how much of it is also people warning us, like, hey, this isn't good, hey. There's a lot of things where fear could start. I think that the more interesting part of fear is, like, when you fear the supernatural, like, if you fear ghosts, vampires, werewolves, zombies, this is where this gets interesting for me. Because technically, you have never met these things on this world. As far as we know, some people do consider themselves more sensitive to stuff like that, but the average person does not consider themselves to believe, like, especially, or the average person isn't afraid of vampires at night. Like, if you're walking around in the city, or, like, if you're going around your town at night, vampires really aren't on your top list of things that could go wrong. But yet, for some reason, like, we all fear stuff like that. Like, there's this innate sense of, like, the things that come out in the dark, and these types of creatures, I feel like people get more like, oh my gosh, like, they're coming. They probably say there's a reason why horror movies scare us. It's the fear, I feel like it's the fear of the unknown and the fear of death. I think a lot of it comes back to the fear of death, and death is what takes all of us in the end. So if you tie this theory back to the idea that people usually fear death, then I think it has some there's definitely more credibility there when you tie it back to that. It's just a very interesting idea, though, that, like, what you're afraid of can be related to how you die. Do you believe more in the whole, like, your fears could represent something that happened in your past life, especially if they're more, like, subconscious fears, like, if you're really afraid of failing, or you hate the cold, or maybe even it's not even, like, maybe we could take this deeper than fears. Maybe it's, like, things that you don't like if you don't like the heat versus you don't like the cold, or you don't like a certain type of food, or you don't like a certain type of animal, and you just can't explain it other than the fact that it just really doesn't vibe with you. I think that has some more credit to the whole fear representing what you were killed by theory, or, like, how you died theory, because I think disliking something that you can't explain is a lot easier than explaining something that you should technically be afraid of, This is a hard one, because there's a lot of speculation with these theories, so it's definitely harder for me to decide whether I agree with them or not. I definitely think that I'm more skeptical about the birthmark theory, but I think that I can give the fear theory a little bit more credit, for lack of a better word, into how it affects people and the life. So how it affects people and the life that might have been before, and the life that might have been before and now. As always, please let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what's going on with these theories, especially because you've just listened to me talk about mine for however long this video edits out to. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoy conspiracy videos like this, feel free to subscribe. I'm here every Tuesday, unless something comes up. Remember to respect the trip, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!